Thank you. I just want to confirm something. Just in relation to the compensation formula, was there collaboration or consultation with the Australian Holden Dealer Council in relation to the determination of that formula?
Senator McGrath, good morning. We took the opportunity to develop that formula on the basis of the data and the financial information that was supplied to us by Holden dealers over a number of years. We used that as a basis because we wanted to make them whole on their lost profit opportunity. We looked at their profit made from selling new cars in 2019, and they made a $600 loss for every Holden that they sold. So we went back 3 years to try to find a time when they were in the black, and we came up with, going back by 3 years, a number of $351 per car. We put on the table $1,500 per car, and we thought that that would be, we would believe that that would be seen as a generous offer at the time that would be that dealers would accept.
But I suppose my question was there any consultation or collaboration with the Australian Holden Dealers Council? So did General Motors in Australia speak to the AHDC, or did you just rely on the data that you've just mentioned before?
We didn't speak to the AHDC about what their offer, what their amount should be prior to any decision or any announcement. We spoke to the AHDC immediately after the decision was taken. We did inform them. We had come up with, and they were very, they at the time were very anxious to hear from us what our compensation offer would be, and can we quickly get that to them, which we undertook to do. We came up with our offer with the analysis that was based on their data, and we put it to them. But we asked them what their amount should be. No, we did not.
Okay. So when you had the data and you were looking through it, did you conduct a detailed financial impact on all dealers to see if the compensation was fair and equitable?
Yeah, so we did. We did it on a broad basis by taking a look at, okay, let's look at what position the dealers would be as a result of Holden not being able to supply vehicles for the next 2.5 years, the remainder of their contract with us. And we sought to, and we went into a process, as I explained earlier, that sought to not only make them whole, but even on those losses, but seek to overcompensate so we could identify if there were any other issues that the Holden's exit might have caused, that could actually serve to remedy those as well. So we did take a very deep analysis. We did it in quick time, but it was a very deep analysis to understand what it was that dealers were making from selling new cars. We added into it what they were making from other lines of business that they have associated with selling new cars, like selling finance and insurance, accessories, and any other income from the sale of new cars, and sought to make them whole on that at the very least. In most cases, and we did do that with the $1,500.
So you would assert that your compensation package is fair for all dealers, based on the data that you use to build the compensation package?
Yes, Senator McGrath, we would assert that.
Okay. I've got some more questions there, and hopefully I can come back to that. But I just want to ask just about the Holden brand itself. Who was I'm a little confused. So who was the final decision maker in relation to the retirement of the Holden brand? So I take it wasn't you. Who made the decision?
The decision was taken by the General Motors board and the General Motors senior leadership team in Detroit. My role was to provide as much input as I could on the various scenarios that we were considering for Holden in Australia, including a future which would needed it to attract a significant investment. And of course, I had to provide input on how you would conduct an orderly wind down if that's the decision that it took. Unfortunately, that was the decision that it took.
So when did they make the decision?
Well, they made the decision, as I mentioned, in the days leading up to the announcement. So I was advised on this. Yeah,
I'm sorry, but like, if there's a board making a decision, there is normally a board meeting. When would that? What date did the General Motors board make that decision?
General Motors board and leadership team made that decision overnight on where I got, as I mentioned in response to Senator O'Neill's question, it would have been overnight the 13th, 14th of February.
So when you went to America, and there's been some media reports about someone overhearing you talking about the retirement of the Holden brand. In what context was that? Because my understanding was, is that correct that you were in America in late January, and that there would have been discussions then about the retirement of the Holden brand?
So those accounts don't bear much resemblance with my reality. However, I was in Detroit in January, and I was participating, as I mentioned earlier, I was participating in a very broad study on the various options associated with Holden's future. It considered options like what investment it would take to have that brand and have have the cars necessary to thrive in the Australian market, but it also needed to consider what the alternatives were too. So in my time between December and February until the announcement was taken was spent working day and night on all of the various possibilities for General Motors operations here in Australia.
So on this flight, because the media reports indicate that there might have been discussions about how to strategise with Holden dealers and employees. Would that be correct as part of your approach?
Look, I don't agree with the account, but what I will say is that at that time I was working on a whole range of scenarios, Senator McGrath. I was participating in a study that considered not only a wind down but a future with Holden. I was obviously hopeful that it was a much longer future with the Holden brand, introducing great new product that met the needs and was superior to the competition well into the future. That would be my plan A, but I had to consider plan B, plan C, plan D and plan E. And that was my job.
I'll need to give a call to Senator Faruqi.
Cool. I won't. Just two questions. Just in relation to Mary Barra, who I understand is the President and CEO of General Motors, has she ever visited Australia?
Mary Barra is the CEO of General Motors, and I can't recall Mary visiting Australia.
Okay. Just in relation to what we call the Holden brand, and this may seem a Just a weird question away, but who actually owns it? So which legal entity owns the Holden brand? Is it General Motors based in Detroit?
Ultimately, the brand is on a balance sheet in a General Motors company, as a General Motors owned company, and I can't recall exactly what subsidiary of the General Motors company it is, but it is owned by General Motors. Yes.
So you say it's on a balance sheet. What value would the Holden brand have on the balance sheet of General Motors?
Well, that's not something I wish to disclose here in a public setting. It's not the right place to do that. But it is of significant value. It is a value that the dealers who are now becoming authorised service outlets will enjoy deriving value from themselves over the next at least 5 years as they provide service and repair work, and there's certainly other points of value as a result of the Holden brand. That's an asset that we cherish within the company.
Well, I'd probably query that in terms of if it's such an important asset, how most Australians feel how that asset, which you've said should be treated with dignity and respect in your opening statement, has actually been treated in terms of the announcements that's been made this year. I just want to get a reassurance from you in relation to the Holden brand. We've seen MG, a famous British automobile company, is now owned by a Shanghai-based state-owned company in China. Can you give us an assurance that General Motors won't sell off the Holden brand to, for example, a state-owned company in China, or indeed any other company? Can you give us that assurance?
I'm not going to address any hypotheticals, but I want to assure you this, and that is that Holden remains within our ownership, within General Motors ownership. We expect to trade with that trademark and that brand for a long period into the future. It gives our customers, 1.6 million of them, the assurance that they can come to a location bearing that mark, that they will, that they can have their cars looked after appropriately with well-trained technicians and genuine parts. And that's how we intend to utilise that brand into the future.
One final question, Chair. I mean, I wrote to Ms. Barra back in May, asking for her to sell the Holden brand back to Australia for $1, not because it's worthless, because it's priceless. And I note that Ms. Barra has not had the courtesy to reply to my correspondence. So if we face a situation where the CEO of General Motors won't reply to legislators in the Commonwealth Parliament, how can we be assured that what you say to us today about the long-term future of Holden in Australia is actually assured? Aren't you taking us for a ride up the creek?
Senator McGrath, we did receive your correspondence, and only recently, I might add, because it did take a while for your letter to reach Detroit, given the circumstances, and we will be replying to you. But the reply will say this: we genuinely value the Holden brand. It has enormous value to the Australian community. The way that we're conducting ourselves with our heritage vehicles and our icons and the artefacts that are associated with such an important brand only demonstrates how careful we are with something that as I mentioned earlier, it's deeply personal for a lot of people. It's deeply personal for me. And we'll be giving assurance to the extent possible that we wish to continue trading with that brand and caring for it as it deserves to be treated. So that's going to be the contents of the response that I've been involved with.
Senator Faruqi,